Hey, what's up everyone? It's Duskmos, and today we're taking a look at the Pladask Elektrisk Baklengs. The Baklengs is best described as a granular looping delay, and it's a lot of fun. There are a lot of great features with the Baklengs, looping obviously with different modes, all the granular goodness. You can switch the direction of the grains, you can jump around octaves, and really get your hands in here and craft a sound that is either interacting with what you're playing live into it or a loop that you've captured, and it's just a whole lot of fun. Pladask Elektrisk is well known for making really interesting, gritty, textural, grainy type pedals in all the best ways. I have the drum, which is the reverb from Pladask, and that's just one of my favorite pedals of all time. Really amazing sounds and textures coming from that. And there's something about the way that Pladask Elektrisk creates their sound palette that is different from other pedal makers that I've heard. It's like a grittiness, but a warmth, and it's a smoothness as well, and that's really, really cool. Okay, so now let's go over the I/O and controls on the Baklengs. So first up on the back, you've got the mono in and out. You've got these 6 knobs here, 3 multi-position toggle switches. They're each 3-way. And you've got 2 soft latching foot switches on the bottom, as well as 2 LED indicator lights here to indicate status. So up top, we've got a clock control, which is a knob that controls a plethora of things going on with the Baklengs. It's really the quality of the sound. So on the low setting, you get max playback time as well as a lower quality because the clock rate is reduced, so you effectively have a little bit more of a lower fidelity recording. But on the lowest end, it can record up to 2.7 seconds, and then on the higher end, it's just over half a second. As you turn the clock rate up, not only does the fidelity get a little bit higher, but it also impacts kind of the speed of your loops and the modulation and the playback rate of, pretty much everything on the pedal. It also affects pitch. So think of this as kind of like just a master shift or sort of a tilt kind of thing that is affecting basically everything that's going on in the system. Volume and mix are pretty self-explanatory. You've got volume of the output and then mix of dry and wet. The loop parameter is basically your decay, and you can turn it all the way up to the right to that infinity symbol, and you'll lock in what you're playing, and it will essentially kind of repeat that loop, but you can keep writing to it as long as this foot switch isn't selected. We'll talk about that later. But you'll basically get looping feedback the more you turn it up. As you decrease this knob or go left towards center, you'll actually hit the noon point here where there is no regeneration at all. So if you need to tame things quickly, it's kind of a smart play just to turn it to the 12 o'clock position. As you go left of center towards this recycle type symbol, it essentially becomes a destructive feedback where it'll keep adding octave effects or any of the other effects that you have in play as each loop runs through. It can get a little crazy, but that's half the fun. You just have to kind of watch what you're doing a little bit, and if it gets a little too nuts for your liking, then just dial it back towards the 12 o'clock point. That's kind of like your safe zone. Or you could go left or right of it, whichever seems like it's a good sound for you. Mod is the controller for the frequency modulation. It's a random frequency modulation of your repeated wet signal or whatever else you have going on. But basically that's just a nice little frequency mod that will give you a little bit of that warble and a little bit more of a lo-fi kind of nature. Time, as you can see, goes from 0 to freeze, and it also has basically a stop at the middle. When it's on the 0 to that 12 o'clock point, that's just your delay time. What's really interesting is when you cross that 12 o'clock threshold, you enter into a time stretch mode that will basically just chop up your recorded bits in your delay or your loop and stretch them out, and giving you that sort of elongated playback that sounds like it's really drawn out, which is a really cool effect. As you go all the way up, you fully crank it. It's a freeze mode that'll actually just stop the playback position of your recorded bit. So you can really, as whatever's playing back, you can just dime that knob all the way, and then you'll get that sort of frozen status. I'm going to skip over these three switches right now and talk about the foot switches. This is just the normal bypass with the indicator light there. But then this is a looping mode that will override what the knob is doing. So if you engage this foot switch and that light is lit, then the knob just doesn't really matter anymore. And then you're looking at these three symbols here. In this leftmost position, you're going to have that recycle symbol, and that is the max direct feedback. So it's kind of the same thing as turning this all the way fully counterclockwise. Middle position you can see is the infinity symbol, which that's the same thing as going all the way to the right, giving you that looping feedback that you can play over and essentially keep writing on top of. And then if you like what you're doing or what you've got recorded and looping, you can click it over to the right side in this little box, which kind of looks like a VHS tape, but it's just a box around the infinity symbol. And that just locks in your loop, so you can't keep writing over it. But what's cool about that is, and I'll do this when I demo, is to lock something in, and then you can go to town with like time and clock speed and the other options, and yeah, do some cool stuff. This middle toggle has three positions as well. On the left side, you can see it's the arrow pointing left, and that is a reverse grain playback. So it's not a true reverse delay, but what it does do is just take your recorded delay bits and play them back in reverse order, if that makes sense. In the middle, that is a shuffling grain mode where you can hear it pick and pull different bits from the recorded sample and play them back in a random order. And then to the right, it's forward moving, which is kind of like the more normal granular movement. And this last toggle switch is your octave selector. So to the left is a octave down, to the middle, that's no octave shift, and to the right, it's an octave up. Really fun to play with this in conjunction with how the time is moving, or the time stretch and the clock. You can really get hands-on. All right, let's hook it up and hear how it sounds. So as always, I like to start with my clean sound, which I have a couple prepared, a couple loops, and then I'm also just going to noodle, and maybe I'll start with the noodling just to see kind of what this does before we kind of stick in and, and hear what the loops might sound like. So the clean sound sounds like this. Very digital, and we'll engage the backlinks. So already you can hear, I might stick just the one note for a moment, but. So you can hear there is a decay on this, but it's definitely not as sort of shuffled and jumpy as this is. You'll really hear that change when I change the clock speed. So the time is really short. That's why you're getting just the one repeat happening right away. Let's get that further one there. Really late. Yeah, which is cool. But if you speed up the clock speed, you'll hear a lot more happens. And it's also a little bit higher fidelity. Although you are getting more granular action when you have it sped up. So it might be higher fidelity, but it also sounds a little bit less so because it's doing more granular stuff. So here I've moved it into the time stretching territory. I added a second note just because it was getting a little boring. So right now it kind of just sounds like a glitchy delay. Or like a low bit rate kind of delay. We can change up this, or kind of change the direction of the loop mode here. It's not really direction, it's more just intensity, I guess. But I meant direction because I look at it as left of center and right of center. So we'll go towards this full, like, kind of looping side. So you hear it kind of chew through because we're on time stretch and it's doing that sort of kind of looping. We'll go to about the same position on this side, but you hear those repeats continue. Put into infinity mode there, you can hear it's basically latched on to a micro loop. But it's added that extra note on top because it wasn't boxed in, which is what you need to switch into this mode for, which will just kind of freeze so it doesn't accept any more input, basically. We'll really stretch out this time stretch mode. So pay attention to the way the grains sound. Triggered another note by accident. But now I'll flip it into reverse. So you hear it kind of jumping through. The sound isn't, it doesn't have a lot of change throughout its cycle, I guess, for lack of a better term. So it's maybe a little harder to notice that this is in reverse, but it is. You kind of almost hear maybe like the amplitude ramp up a little bit. So that's our best sign that it is reversed for this sound anyway. But we'll switch it to the middle mode. You'll definitely hear it shuffle more. Yeah, it just... Oh, there you go. Yeah, you hear it just sound a little bit more kind of uneasy. I'll take it sort of down off this stretch mode. And we'll go to this more like a delay side. So there you really hear it kind of hopping through. This was to look like a playhead. You go to reverse. Definitely hear it kind of ramping more. Go to forward. Yeah, this illustrates it a little better than the time stretch mode did. So the clock speed down. So now it's like a very digital, crunchy delay. Since it's more on the delay side than the time stretch side. So you can hear that's kind of slowed down a bit. There you go, definitely a little bit more illustrative of that there. We'll go a little further up. I think we've entered now actually a bit into the nearing the freeze mode. And that's its own thing. So if you dime the time knob, basically, especially if you up the loop length here, or intensity, I guess. Oh, I guess I froze what was happening. Hold on. Kind of max in to the freeze mode to kind of latch. And then you can make crazy stuff happen when you adjust the speed of the delays when you get out of that kind of time stretch side, which is pretty interesting in and of itself. I'm actually going to switch now to this other sound. And I'll play a pattern as well. Whoops. Gotta mute that one. There we go. So that's what we're working with. Clean. Kind of reset this a little bit. And we'll activate the backlinks. You can also think of this almost as like a feedback as well. Because you have time control here. This is kind of a cool sound though. Turning it up a little bit. Okay, so you can adjust the clock down. You'll see it's still holding on to some of the old. So that's mostly cleared out now. But the time isn't so great, so you maybe would adjust that. I'm gonna go all the way down. Kind of clear it out by going to 12 o'clock on the loop. All right, kind of weird. An octave up now, just to see how that sounds. stretch stuff. So that's pretty cool. Complements what's happening live, but just playing back an octave up, stretched out, so you're going to get some similar notes overlapping, and yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to adjust the clock speed. Now, I haven't messed with the mod yet, but this is the depth of the modulation that's applied to the wet signal. So let's add some of that in. So you can hear the pitch going off a little bit there, but in kind of a nice way. So really maxed out that. I'm going to up the clock speed now, all the way. See what happens. It definitely sped up the time for the time stretch, even though I know I just messed with the knob, but you could already tell it's playing through a lot faster. So now back to just more of the delay side. Bring the modulation down. Let's go back to the real slow clock speed. All right, now I'm going to switch it to the shuffle grain mode. And now reverse. That's pretty cool because we're getting the fades in. Which sounds pretty nice. Oh, that sounds good. Can maybe mix it in a little bit more delicately. That's pretty cool. Let's try an octave down. I'll bring the mix back in. Yeah, that's vibey. turn the loop to the other side here, 12 o'clock. It's pretty cool. Definitely different flavor. Just froze it. Okay, and that probably brings us to a good stopping point to now try this sort of locked in mode. Okay, so when you activate this side, like I said, that you can have the option to lock in a loop that no longer will receive new audio input. So probably needs to be going first. So now that's frozen in here. And you can do interesting stuff. And I lost it because I switched the modes, but that's okay. We'll do it again. Oh, let's see. And actually, we'll go down here. And now that's in there. And you can play. Like I could just play the pattern again. And it's just like a frozen loop that will be unaffected by incoming audio. So you can try to find some interesting sort of pitches and stuff. You can stop this and just look for something cool to like sample, take it out, and you've got a really cool basis for something really moody and interesting. As you can hear, what I'm playing doesn't impact anything. But now it does, because we're back to kind of like the live mode, which again, this is at 12 o'clock, so it wasn't doing much until I turned it up like that. Go an octave up. So now I froze that. So if you keep this stuck on that mode there, you'll always be able to just kind of latch on to a loop that you like in the moment, which could be pretty handy. Do less mod. Kind of diffuse the delays into more of that sort of frozen, granular, slow playing. If you have it in this mode when you're using the foot switch, it will allow you to continue to write audio to it as it loops. So let me switch sounds again. Let's see. I don't want to do it. Okay. So octave down mode. Oh, that sounded pretty epic. You'll be standing on top of a mountain with your hands at your waist, with a cape flapping. Good times. So we've got that on that infinite mode. We'll go ahead and play that. So you hear that loop. I'm just going to switch sounds back to the other sound now. And when I play, it should allow me to stack on top of that. So there it is. So you could build up interesting loops this way with slightly unpredictable results. Let's try just this clap. We're going to throw a clap in there and see what happens. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just going to keep going. We'll see if I can make this decent or if I'm going to ruin it. But hey, that's half the fun. So let's try some other sounds. I'm in danger of it going south from here. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to add anything else. But let's manipulate it a little further. Go all the way down. It's pretty interesting. Switch the octave up and see, as long as I don't lose everything. Actually, I might switch this into the frozen mode, or like the no new audio mode. See what happens. And then an octave up, but clock down. Ooh, that's a little too crispy. I'm going back all the way down. Now I'm going to twist the time knob and see where we end up. gone forever. Oh, I don't want to turn that. Oh, this won't do anything because it's on this mode. All right, so what do I think of the Baklengs? Well, I really enjoy this pedal. I'm a big fan of what Pladask does, and I think that kind of shows. I've definitely had some other pedals from the brand on the channel, and I've really liked them all. Some might be more useful than others for me personally, and this is the type of music I make, but I think there's a place for any of them, kind of with anyone. I don't know. I'm not trying to be a brand shill or anything. I'm not getting paid for this. I bought this. But I just thought, yeah, I just like what they do. I like the ethos. I like the sound. It's just a really fun pedal. Obviously jumping through the different functions here, moving the clock speed around is really cool. You really change up the texture of everything with the clock really low. Speed it up and get those chipmunk sounds. That's really fun too. Octave mode, same kind of thing, going an octave down. When I did that in the demo, it was really cool having like the time stretch and the low octave paired with the notes that were going through. Really enjoyed that. I'm also a really big fan of the infinite looping mode. That's really cool. Again, like when I demoed that and had a pattern going that I was just kind of adding on top of, and it was a little bit of a mystery on how it was going to turn out, and some pieces were better than others, but that's a really fun way to use this. It's kind of like a sound on sound mode, and yeah, I feel like you can really get some interesting things that you might not have thought to play out of just kind of messing with that, and octave down and slowing the clock down. Really cool. Having the grain direction is a really nice touch too. Getting some of that reverse stuff to come in if you're looking for that kind of feel is really nice. Obviously shuffle is cool. I think shuffle is kind of my favorite because I like just like the hopping around. It's cool. It's sort of like, just feels like something that's kind of always hovering around the sound that you're playing, adding to it both. I don't know, it seems like kind of like behind and before or something. I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but that's just what it feels. It feels like you're like here and the sounds that are coming out are here and here, and it just fills it out, and I think that's pretty cool. So is the Baklengs for you? I think it could be. If you're in the market for a really entertaining, hands-on, creative tool, I think this could do it. If you like slowed down and lo-fi and pitched things, I think that's a really good option for you. I'm a big fan of taking something and slowing it down or speeding it up and adding some character with some grit and some lo-fi sensibilities. And I think the Baklengs could totally get that job done for you. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend this if that sounds appealing to you. Well, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.